Well, Giddy says arpeggiated chords, he probably means just that, rather than playing an outright chord. Playing an arpeggio that rolls through the part that creates a little more of a melodic dynamic, more of a melodic character, and feeds off maybe something that he's playing, particularly these days where he plays a lot more bass chords across those sort of things. I would say for me, probably in my vibrato, I think my vibrato is probably one of my trademarks, for lack of a better term. Yeah, I guess it was around the time of Xanadu that I started to feel those chords, particularly on a 12-string where it's even more jangly. And certainly I've used them to great effect over the years. Hemispheres, of course. Well, Far Cry has that same F sharp with the suspended, what is that, a suspended ninth or something? I don't know those terms, to be honest, but I use them a lot. Again, that sort of regular bar chord on the A or the B string, or on the A or the B, 5th or 7th fret, you know, with the high strings ringing out as well, just creates more sound, you know, in a three-piece. A motion detector from Power Windows. It has one of my favorite solos, I think, that I've ever played on it. It just has that combination of a soulfulness as well as an articulation that's very tense and fluid at the same time. It has really a lot of different characteristics to it. As far as my solos goes, has to be my favorite in that it's a very untraditional, kind of very unique sound, very elastic and very plaintive and sad. Those sort of interval skips and pulls and those kinds of not hammer-ons, I don't know what you'd call them, but just part of that kind of pulling. I think I got a lot of that from Alan Holdsworth. I think around that time in the late 70s, I was quite influenced by his finger work, the way he pulled and played without actually picking. I think a lot of it came from there. For me, playing solos live, Limelight for sure. Tom Sawyer, I quite like playing that solo on Tom Sawyer. Natural Science. There's a few on this stuff. Larger Bowl is a real treat to play. Animate was one of my favorites. The whole industry is so different. I think at the end of the day it all comes down to persevering and learning your craft, and if you're good, the chances of doing something are greater than if you're not, or if you're mediocre. Although there's so much emphasis put on mediocrity these days. I think you just have to persevere. You just have to stick with it and play and figure out what it is that satisfies you as a player and as a musician and as a songwriter, and come to terms with that. It's a lot more difficult out there. I mean, there just isn't the kind of development that there was when we were coming up. You know, a record company signed you for 5 records. They hoped that the first 3 were going to be the ones where you molded yourself, and then the next 2 were the payback records. That doesn't exist anymore. Nobody takes a chance anymore, and it's fragmented. And maybe we're just in a transitional period, and we just need to find what the new direction is and the new way of doing things is. And I hold out hope that that's really what it is. There's lots of great music around. You just have to look for it and sift through a little more closely, I think. Part of the stable of guitars for this tour, we've got a few Les Pauls there. I put piezos in a couple of the guitars. We actually have 58 that's out, having a piezo put in it right now.
Okay.
And then we've got this guy with a piezo. We also have the Howard Roberts. That it's got a piezo and it has a specific tuning for the way the wind blows. The 355 is back out again this time around, and that's my baby. In fact, Gibson's working on doing a signature line of the Alex Lifeson 355. So hopefully we'll have some of those out by the time we hit the road in a couple of months. The SG is just a standard tuning. I decided not to use PRSs on this tour, so I'm relying more on this vibrato system as well as a Les Paul that we're getting done with a Kahler to see how that is. And this is the double neck. Yeah, we're still working on the set list, so we're not sure whether the double neck is going to make an appearance this time around. It might not, but we'll see. We can put the piezo on the 6-string, but not on the 12. They currently don't make a bridge for that will read individually all 12 strings. So unfortunately we weren't able to do that, or at least not able to do it in time for the tour. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just going to an acoustic 12 for the parts where I needed a 12-string, and it just means being in the right place at the right time and avoiding that avoiding that train crash, which so far has been pretty prominent in the set. These are the Garrison 12 strings, and that's in that tuning that I use for Hope and for the main Monkey business. We have another 12 that's standard tuning that we use in a couple of other songs. That's the GC50 that I did most of the recording on the album with, and that's my backup, which is slightly different. It has a thicker varnish on that guitar. This is a much more thinner oiled varnish. The great thing about the PRSs is that if they stay in tune with the strings going straight through, seldom is there a problem with tuning. They're really terrific, and you can really do a lot. It's not locking. It's not a hassle. But this time around, I just wanted a different sound approach. So I've gone to Les Pauls and with the Gibsons mostly for this tour. We have a Strat on the road for one song because of that particular sound that we wanted, but other than that, it's basically all the Gibson stuff this time.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, we have Rackmount Crybaby, we have the VCAs, all part of our switching system and the way we've been running things. The TC 1210 I use for chorus. I'm probably going to add a second one for the phasing quality, or else I'm going to stick in a loft. In the loft I used to have years ago, in the early 80s, I think, or mid 80s.
And that's the Limelight chorus, isn't it?
That's the loft is the actual Limelight chorus. And then the G-Force, I use 3 and a spare Behringer, a spare Behringer here, but the Behringer mixers that we run into the GCX switchers. Yeah, so I mean that's pretty straightforward. It's actually a Behringer noise gate as well. It's pretty straightforward. I don't have a lot of stuff in there, but everything's pretty effective, and it's what I need for live. This is the whole setup for the radios. So we have multiple packs, as you can see. It's an Audio-Technica system. Really love it a lot, and Bucky can select whatever radio we want to be on, whatever frequency. We can change the frequencies. We can do everything through a computer rather than actually getting into the units and having to do all that stuff on an individual unit. And then the amps, we're using the Alex Lifeson model, tri-amps as again the main basic stereo sound. So we run the send-outs into the switching system, 2 different signals, and then it's all done in stereo, and it returns, and then it's mic'd or it's presented in stereo. What we typically do in our monitors is we add about a 16 millisecond delay so that I can get a left and right, leaving the middle open for vocals and the key drums as well as the bass. Out in the house, Brad maybe uses that same sort of setup for some stuff, or else something a little more straightforward. He has a little freer reign out there than we do in the monitors.
And is this the switchblade?
These are the switchblades, and there are two. And what I use them for is mostly for peripheral sounds. So they'll be hard left and right. They'll have different sort of effects, and they'll just create a presence of another instrument. Also, as I said, we have a couple of guitars that we're using piezos. The Fishman stuff, the Aura, which is right over here, which we've set up for lots of different things. As you can see, we've got the 12-string. We have one set up for piezo, and then we've one set up for the mandolin. So this just gives us greater flexibility in the sounds. Bucky's downloaded millions of different sounds and shapes, and they're, particularly for the piezo, they're very acoustic sounding. So it really helps that piezo sound like an acoustic guitar rather than like a direct electric guitar. And blending, 4 amps as well as a piezo can create quite a big sound presence, and it's really necessary with this record. There's a lot of layering of electric and acoustic parts, and it's essential to be able to combine those elements to create that one big sound.